What is up, guys? This is Andre Petroski, UFC middleweight. I am joined by Jamie Miller here, former professional MMA fighter, advocate, public speaker, coach. Thanks for joining us, Jamie.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So tell us a little bit. I kind of want to jump right into it. Tell us a little bit about where you're from,
Okay.
how you ended up in Philadelphia, and how you got interested in martial arts.
All right, so we'll just start with the first one because I won't remember the others. So, where I'm from, born and raised in West Virginia.
Wow.
Yeah, so I'm a country girl at heart. It's a fun fact. Most people don't know that about me. And second question was,
How'd you end up in Philadelphia?
oh, so actually, my ex got a job offer in Philly, so that's what brought us here.
He was
originally.
also from West Virginia?
No, Tennessee.
Okay.
Tennessee, yeah. And so even though, it was this new business venture he was part of, and it didn't work out, but we loved Philly so much that we decided to stay and just kind of build our life there.
Okay. So at this point, before you came to Philadelphia, you were already training.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I started my martial arts journey back in 2005, 2006, and started off boxing and kickboxing, and then transitioned to MMA later. Yeah.
Did you wrestle growing up or anything?
Not really. I mean, if you count wrestling and the dirt with my friends, then yes. But
Okay.
I didn't really step on the mats doing any sort of grappling until I made that transition to MMA.
Yeah.
But I felt like it was already I don't know, because I was already training. It sort of just, it was kind of.
And you are Daniel Gracie black belt?
I guess you would say that.
Yeah.
I wasn't, Daniel didn't give me my black belt.
Okay.
I was given my black belt by my cousin, actually, Ricardo Tubbs, down in Chesapeake, Virginia. So he owns DeFirma Training Center. And yeah, I trained under Daniel Taza, a brown belt. And then.
Daniel Taza.
Yeah.
What was his name?
Ricardo Tubbs.
Ricardo Tubbs.
Yeah.
Okay. So, how did that come about? How did you get your black belt? You were going down there to train once in a while?
Well, yeah. So Ricardo was actually very close to Daniel. I believe that. I mean, they still have a close relationship, but Ricardo and I reconnected, and then he became one of my first sponsors when I during my first pro fight, and yeah, and we just always stay close, and I would go down and teach classes or just go for visits. And
Nice.
I guess now being on the trajectory now of just being heavily involved in the community and all the things that I'm doing in self-defense and teaching and stuff. So
Which we will get into later.
yes. And so, yeah, he felt that even though I'm not on the mats training every day, which I sort of felt like I wasn't really deserving of it because of that I wasn't really getting the mat time in, but they, helped me to realize that it's really about who you become and what you're doing to give back to the sport and how you're helping other people. So I was like, okay,
Love that.
makes sense now. Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah.
So you moved to Philadelphia. What year was that? Did you have any boxing or kickboxing fights in West Virginia?
Not in West Virginia. So, born and raised in West Virginia, and then I moved to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, my junior year of
wow.
high school. So that's where I found martial arts.
Wow.
And then from South Carolina, moved to Cincinnati to be closer to family.
So you grew up mom and dad?
Yeah, they divorced when I was in high school.
And one of them moved to South Carolina?
Yeah, so my mom, after the divorce, I guess she just needed a fresh start, and I wanted to stay with my mom. So I have 3 other siblings. I'm the youngest of 4. And so they decided, well, my brother, was actually in Myrtle Beach at the time. He's a chef. So he was down there doing his chef thing. And
that's a good brother.
Right. And yeah, so he convinced my mom, listen, this is a great way. You need a fresh start. Come down here. It'd be great for you. And it's funny enough. So my mom has also been very passionate about culinary arts and baking.
Yeah.
And so
not so good for fighting.
Not so great for fighting at all. So when they over time, decided that they wanted to start a business together and chose Cincinnati. There's
Your
like a
mom
really
and
cool,
your brother.
yes, and so they
Wow.
ended up going to culinary school together, and just to kind of like solidify that.
Yeah.
Um, my brother went for his chef, and then my mom went to get her pastry chef, I
Did
guess, degree. Is that what you call it? So they went to Cincinnati to open um, a pasta and bakery company. So they produce fresh
nice.
pasta and yeah, and baked goods.
Did any of your other siblings do martial arts?
No, no,
Wow.
I'm the only one.
So what was your first introduction?
Um, so just for context, I've been an athlete my whole life, like
Okay.
competitive gymnast all throughout my childhood,
Nice.
and then sports all through school. And then when I found martial arts, it was kind of, I didn't even know I liked it. I went as my introduction to that was my friend was teaching a kickboxing class, and I kind of just went out of moral support. I didn't really know it was any, to be honest, I thought it was kind of, I'm like, what is this? Like kickboxing, really?
Karate?
And
Is this
right,
karate?
exactly.
Don't tell me we're going to karate.
Right. But again, I moral support. Let me. All right, I'll go to this class and never stop training after that day. I realized
Hell
this
yeah.
was something I loved doing, and I didn't know what it looked like or what the future could hold. But I was like, man, I really love this. And at the time, like women in, especially like MMA or the
10
UFC.
years ago, it was like,
yeah.
yeah,
Oh no.
way
So
different.
really, the fighters I looked up to were like Gina Carano and like Chris Cyborg
Hell
and Misha Tate and Kat Zingano, and so it was like, wow, I like, you see it, right? So that was always sort of my my motivation of like, I at least, I could at least get there. And then obviously over time, like women
Yeah.
were allowed in the UFC, and it just became more mainstream for us. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So you moved to Philly,
hmm
and then when you first get to Philly, who you training with?
Um. Well, I was pregnant, so I wasn't.
Wow. When you got to Philly.
I got pregnant pretty early on in my relationship.
Okay.
So yeah, I was pretty early on in my pregnancy. So I wasn't really doing any training. I was going to Sweat Fitness.
Wow.
Yeah, just kind of doing like little things here and there. I wasn't really, doing much like MMA training
Okay.
at all. Yeah. And I was only 1-0, or 1-0 as an amateur. So I wasn't even pro yet at that
Okay.
time. Yeah.
So you have your daughter.
Mm-hmm.
What's your daughter's name?
Selena.
Selena.
Yes.
And how long before you start fighting again?
Let's see. I had my first pro fight when she was 3.
Wow.
Yeah,
So
just
you
before
went
her
right
third
back
birthday.
in.
I did. And then after that, I like fell off. I put everything kind of
Yeah.
just, life happened. But yeah, I was, and it's funny because I sort of leading up to that, I found this really cool, I guess it's like a challenge kind of like campaign that
Yeah.
Under Armour Women was doing at the time. And
Under Armour.
yeah.
Wow.
And this was way back before. So this campaign actually helped develop their, their women's apparel. And so it was just like everyday women could go on and say, hey, this is my goal. I'm declaring this. And then you essentially document your journey for like the next
Yeah.
4 to 6 weeks. And so mine was that I wanted to have my first fight back since having my daughter. And so that's kind of like what helped me like to stay on track and
Yeah.
like to really like keep that momentum going. Because otherwise I would have just,
We got to find that, Devin.
what?
Yeah. We'll get that for the clip. So,
Yeah.
all right. So you've and now back then, was it hard to get fights?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. It was really difficult. Even at the amateur level. I mean, even harder at the amateur level. So that's why I only had one amateur fight and then went pro
Wow.
right away.
You
Yeah.
went pro after one amateur
Yeah.
fight. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's extremely rare now. Now they
Oh,
usually
yeah.
don't even let you.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, you have to have
Yeah.
like 2 or 3 amateur fights.
Good time.
So what was the promotion that you fought for? Do you remember?
Cage Fury
Cage Fury.
for my pro fight. Yeah. My fight. It was
Wow.
CFFC 19
Wow.
against Sumi Sakai. She was a pro wrestler.
Sumi Sakai.
Yeah.
Like WWE wrestler?
Yeah.
Wow.
She's awesome.
Nice.
So I think I got TKO. Yeah, I think I got the TKO of that
Nice.
fight. Yeah. So
And who
That's
were you
good.
training with at that point?
I was at Datus at that point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't in martial arts when Datus was big. but a lot of people mentioned Daddis. Like, it wasn't John from Daddis? Didn't Coach John come from Daddis? Or he was there at one point?
I think at one point, yeah, but we never, I don't think we crossed paths. I think he was at we didn't cross paths. Yeah.
So you win a bunch of fights, and then I know that you fought on the Contender Series.
Yes, twice.
And so your first fight on the Contender Series, at this point you were 4-1, 4-0.
I think so.
Okay, so you fight on the Contender Series and you got to finish.
I did, yeah.
Wow.
That was that was interesting. A lot of people don't know this, but I was 6 months post-op ACL reconstruction when I accepted that fight, and at the time I just took it as like, I'm never going to get this opportunity again. I think we all kind of have that mentality, and it's like, okay, this is probably not the best time for me to take it, but I took it. And so that fight, I honestly had no business fighting in that fight. I was not strong enough or ready. And so the first round of that fight, I re-injured my ACL. So that's why the fight itself was kind of boring. The finish was exciting and amazing that I could pull it off. But the reason why I wasn't really showing up as like Jamie in that fight was because I was injured. Like, I couldn't explode. I couldn't defend takedowns. Like, she was taking me down at will. And at one point my knee ended up like giving out, and I just fell to the canvas. But in those moments, I'm like,
finish her with?
Armbar in the last 20 seconds of the third round. And I remember, like, when it happened, the first round, like, we were against the cage, and I had my leg posted out, which you're not supposed to do anyway. And she like put all of her weight on my knee, and like my knee completely like was out, and I fell, but I let out like a yelp. I kind of like yelled, and I thought, fuck, like the ref is gonna think
Stop it.
When he didn't, though, I was like, all right, well, if I can stand, or I'll figure out a way to finish the fight, because I knew like a knockout wasn't really in the cards for me, which is like, of course we all want, but when I realized that I couldn't really defend takedowns, I was like, oh wait, I know jiu-jitsu. So I just waited. And I was well aware of her mistakes and what she was doing. So she was giving me her arm a lot. So I just, waited for just timing and capitalizing on that. So,
wow.
Yeah.
So that was kind of my next question was there any talks with the UFC after that fight?
Yeah, Dana he thought it was awesome that I was able to finish it. Nobody knew I was injured. I think that would have kind of
made them think differently.
Yeah. So, but I was also like, I felt like I didn't want to show any weakness either, like, or maybe give excuses in that way.
West Virginia.
Yeah.
You can't hurt
Can't hurt me. No, I didn't tell anybody, and I just kind of, went home and dealt with it. But Dana was, happy to see the finish, and he said, let's get you like a couple more fights, we'll have you back, and then got injured again. So
So did you end up getting surgery? Did you have to get surgery?
No, thankfully I was able to avoid surgery, but my knee was never the same after that. No, like, I mean, I was married to PT. I did everything right. Which I didn't do from the beginning, the first. So
same knee, right?
Same
the whole
knee.
time.
Same knee.
So I remember we were in the basement and this is many years later.
Yes.
We were in the basement at Daniel's gym, and you like rolled over, and I think I like bumped into you or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I said something kind of rude, like "get up" or something. And then I realized like you were hurt, and I was like, "Oh shit," because you had a fight booked.
Yeah.
I forget who you were booked to fight.
I was 3 weeks out. It was she was a big name too. My brain just is not the same anymore. But that was going to be my fight, and then the next would have been UFC for me. And I mean, perfect camp. Yeah, 3 weeks out, and I think I just like had stepped. We were doing very light drills. I had like stepped to land, like to throw a jab or something. I think I was with Eddie, doing drills with Eddie. Anyway, so I heard the pop. I was like, oh my God. And then I kind of like
I remember
fell,
the look on your face, like your face said it all. Like you were like, oh man, I'm really worried about this right now.
Yeah. And so what happened was when my knee went out, my meniscus, so they called a bucket handle tear. So my meniscus like flipped up, and my knee was locked in place. So it was like locked. I couldn't bend it, and it was really painful. So
it was locked
called,
straight.
Yeah, and so I had called my my surgeon on there at the gym, and he's like, "Listen, if it's what I think it is, I can scope it out. You'll be good. I've had athletes that you'll be fine in 3 weeks." And I was like, "Oh, thank God." So, but when I went in and got the MRI, it was both. It was my ACL was blown and my meniscus as well. So, thankfully, because of that, I was able to get in surgery pretty quickly, like 2 weeks. But yeah, that it was a bummer for sure.
Yeah, that's tough. I had at one point, I had a little tiny tear in the cartilage of my knee, and it was doing the same thing. Like, it wasn't like painful, but if I went from like completely locked out to like maybe 10% bent, it was like getting stuck.
Yeah.
And it was just like annoying because like it would happen during training and it would get like stuck. So I got this Visco shot, which was like a lubricating gel. And dude, completely, so far, So it basically just stopped catching. Yeah, it was good. So then you also fought Macy Barber.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they had me back the following year.
So she, at the time, was she a big name? Obviously, she's.
I think so. She was like gaining popularity pretty quickly. Very tough girl.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, oh yeah, like not underestimating her, but I was very comfortable like knowing what I was walking into. She ain't from West Virginia.
So do you know she's fighting this weekend? That's okay.
Don't do that to me. I saw it, and
So she fights Erin Blanchfield. Do you know Erin Blanchfield?
I knew that. I know Erin. Yeah, you know what? And I saw that because I trained with Erin at Henzo's in New York.
She's good.
Back in the day. Yeah.
Okay, so you fought Macy and you trained with Erin.
Yeah.
What can you give a prediction for the fight? Let me start. Let me give you some background. Blanchfield is a -200. Let me double check that. Yeah, Blanchfield is -260 favorite. Yeah.
Yeah.
You got a prediction? What are your thoughts?
I don't know if I have a prediction, but I mean, not only because I like Erin, but I see her. I see this for her. I see it. Her winning this fight in some fashion. I mean, she's kind of deadly, Erin. And she's very like, I don't want to say unassuming, but kind of like, I like that. Like when I see in fighters, not, when somebody's kind of like what's the word I'm looking for?
She has a very good demeanor. Her composure is like, I don't want to say stoic, but it is kind of like she's just unbothered.
Exactly.
It's going to take a lot to get her flustered. She doesn't get flustered very often. And I think that is important, especially with Macy, who comes out like brawling. Yeah, she comes out real strong brawling, and Erin kind of is good at like weathering the storm. And I think that, especially in Erin's last couple fights, like she's done much better later in the fight. Like she does well in rounds 4 and 5.
Yeah. Which I always appreciate. I always appreciate like, taking people to deep waters and
it's not easy.
It's not easy.
Yeah. So, okay. So, so there, that was, unfortunately, the injury hindered that fight.
It did.
It stopped that fight.
Well, wait, the Macy fight?
No, your last fight. Yeah.
Wait.
Your last scheduled fight that you were supposed to have. You injured your knee and couldn't fight.
Right.
Yeah.
And then I had surgery and then went back and then fought Macy. I think I had like a couple fought Macy, had I think 2 more fights, and then I feel like
Then you injured your knee again.
Yeah, and then I had a second surgery, and then after that it's just like it just kept happening. I just kept getting injured, and then came back to fight I don't know why I can't remember my opponent's names, but for LFA. I think it was in
a Brazilian girl.
Yeah, 2021, I think.
She fights coming. She has a fight coming up. I was looking at the Tapology.
Yeah, she's awesome. She's very, very good, and I went in. I just mentally I wasn't all there. It was just I kind of you kind of like feel when
Yeah.
when it's that time kind of
Yeah.
just thinking about retirement. And so I think for me it boiled down to just wanting to finish on a good note. I knew the
Yeah.
time was coming, and I wanted to finish strong because all these years of the injuries and surgeries. I'm like, I just want to. Yeah, I want to like finish at my full potential, and that way I can just be okay with the like. It's my choice to retire, not because of injury. And so after that fight, I realized, all right, let's just go for one more with that mentality, with that in mind. And 1 week out, again, perfect camp, same thing happened. Perfect camp, 1 week out, and nothing happened. I wasn't training. So when I re-entered my meniscus, my doctor said it was due to overuse. So when I cut weight, I cycle a lot. I cycle a lot at night, like on a stationary bike. And then I do my sauna sessions. Like I have a whole system that I do. And so I was cycling. The next morning I woke up and I was in a lot of pain. I'm like, what the heck is this? Just, thought it was just soreness. And I remember calling Coach Mike, crying, like, I'm in a lot of pain. I don't know what it is.
Mike Campbell.
Yeah.
Where's he been?
I don't know.
Haven't seen him in a while.
I know. I haven't seen him either.
Keep going.
So,
Sorry.
no, it's okay. Mike, where are you? So yeah, he's like, well, just come. I'll check your knee out. We'll figure it out. And so I get there, and I couldn't, by the time I got to the gym, I could barely walk, like, let alone do any of like the drills we planned on. And he's like, listen, you've done the work. Just go home, rest, and see how how it progresses throughout the day. So it just kept getting worse. And then had a talk with Coach John. And then he had to talk with some of my training partners, and they were all also kind of said like, oh, we did notice she was a little bit like, for me, I guess there's things I don't see or realize that other people might notice and realize. But I guess a couple of days prior, I was kind of maybe kind of overcompensating. Maybe it already was kind of like tweaked and I didn't realize it. And then the cycling kind of messed it up. But anyway, John was like, yeah, you're not fighting. And so I was like devastated, so devastated. But still, I was like not ready. I'm like, okay, I went and got stem cells. And I was, again, married to PT, doing everything right. And I felt great. About on the back end of my PT, I jumped into sparring and told my training partner, I'm only working hands today. Like, don't kick me. I even had my big ass brace on. He kicks me anyway. It's just reactionary, shit happens. And sent me back to day one. And I was like, man, and I was in so much pain when that happened. And that was the moment where I was like, all right, I have to, if I don't listen now, I'm going to just completely blow my knee out to the point where I'm not going to have quality of life. I remember like being in bed, just completely depressed and just sad because I honestly was sort of bedridden. I couldn't really walk without being in pain in my brace, just limping. And, here's my daughter asking me like, oh, can we walk and, to Rita's, can we go get ice cream? And I'm like, babe, I'm in so much pain. And there were just things I couldn't do with her. And that helped me to realize like, all right, if I want to be able to spend quality time with my child and enjoy life, to be able to coach, to be able to still train pain-free and like, I realize it's time. I have to like really listen to my body. So that was my point of saying no more.
So your Instagram says speaker, survivor, advocate. What does that mean to you?
Well, I talk a lot.
Okay. You do public speaking.
Yes, I do. I do public speaking.
Do you enjoy that?
I do.
Does it give you a little rush? You get nervous?
I get so nervous. I get it. They say that that's the number one fear in people is public speaking. And I get it because it's crazy. As crazy as it sounds, I would rather be locked in a cage with someone who wants to hurt me than just do this, what I'm doing now. So, or stand in front of, 100 people. But the more you do it, the more, like anything else, you get
comfortable.
Yeah. So, but I enjoy it. My public speaking is mostly rooted in my story of survival.
Yeah.
So
can you talk about
you can't really get that wrong. Yeah. So, I'm a domestic violence survivor. I survived a 6.5-year, very toxic, abusive relationship with my ex that we were discussing before. And I endured many different types of abuse, so physical abuse, mental, emotional, psychological, financial abuse, and it was, in the beginning, great because we were best friends, we were training, we were sharing this, passion together, and then over time, kind of started seeing more and more of this, like, I guess his true self. So, anyway, as time went on, I ended up just noticing like his mental health deteriorating. Couldn't really pinpoint it, but it was things were getting scary. So it got to the point where I knew I didn't want to raise my daughter in that environment any longer. I just didn't know a way out. I didn't know that there were resources available. I didn't know that there were, the things that I know now and a safe way to get out. I don't want to get too scattered, but when I finally decided it was time, which wasn't planned at all, it was just, I like to just say it was God, speaking to me, that like very quiet voice, where one day, it was actually Mother's Day 2014, and he was away, and there was a call that came through from him where I don't know if he was triggered by something or whatever happened, but he was just going in on me, and I just couldn't anymore. I was like, I remember just thinking, I don't know what you want from me. And that's all I kept saying. Like, I just refused to apologize anymore. Like, apologizing for things that I didn't do just to get past the whatever.
Stop fighting.
Yeah. And I didn't have it in me anymore. Even just to do that, I was like, I don't have the energy. I was like, I don't. And this was like during a time, it was like extremely, extremely just tumultuous, and just day after day. I mean, walking on eggshells every day, like, for 6 years. But as things got worse, it was just this constant state. I was just living in fear every day, just constant, what's going to happen to me? How is he going to wake up today? Like, that's how I had to plan my days, was anticipating how his mood can change and shift. Like, that's no way to live. And then ultimately, no matter how well prepared you think you are, it doesn't matter, because, whatever he decides, that's how the day would go. So,
so just to give some context, because Jamie wouldn't normally be scared, but as an MMA fighter, but he was also a professional MMA fighter.
He was. And obviously people are like, well, you know how to defend yourself. But I never say, when it comes to self-defense, it's not about fighting. It's about protecting yourself, whether it's physically or mentally, having a strong mindset around self-defense. And so I sure could probably, also he was like pretty big guy. I don't want to get in a fight with
a good fighter.
And to give you a little bit of context with like some of the physical abuse that did happen, and the ways that I would, there were times where, okay, so I'll give you a little bit of story for more context. So these things that would happen, this was after I had my daughter, and I will say there were, I was physically assaulted during my pregnancy as well. So it was before, during, and after. And so one day, I remember he was going to train, and he wanted to use my my good tights, my Under Armour tights. Usually I'm like, okay, whatever. Like, sure, if you want to borrow my tights, whatever. So, but these, I was like, please don't. No, you're just gonna stretch them out. Please don't take my tights. He's like, no, I want them, and like proceeded to go get my tights. And so I was like, no. So there was sort of like this tug of war going on with these tights. And so what he did, he yanked me forward so hard, and then put his head down for the headbutt. So when he yanked me forward, put his head down, and like busted my lip open. And so that was just like things like that he would do. And so, but when I had started sort of training again, when things like that would happen, I was like, whatever, sparring, you just blame it on whatever. So, anyway, so stuff like that would happen. Anyway, so I just, going back, living in a constant state of fear, just never knowing. So yeah, going back to Mother's Day 2014, I said like, and that was making him more agitated because I wasn't reacting how he wanted me to
Yeah.
react, to basically just be submissive.
Yeah.
And so I just had I was like, I don't know what you want from me. Like, ended up getting off the call with him, called my mom and told her sort of everything that had been happening over the
At
whole.
this point, she's in Myrtle Beach.
No, she's in Cincinnati. So she and
Okay.
my brother had already moved,
Got you. For the school.
running
Chef school.
their business. Yeah.
Got ya.
So I had told her everything that had transpired, you know, over the course of the year leading up to. So my family knew that what was going on. The year prior, I had already tried to leave once and ended up getting sort of, he was able to talk me out of it, and I forgave him and all the things. And so I didn't want my family, because it became like a big thing. Like, my sister and her boyfriend came up, and that was, I think, the year I realized his mental health, like, something was really, really wrong. I just couldn't put my finger on it. And so I didn't want my family to, I just didn't want them to feel like their support and what they did for me the year prior was like in vain. I wanted them to think that, okay, wow, they're like, things are good. Like, I really put on a great facade.
Yeah.
Everybody thought like things were amazing and great, and they were actually probably 10 times worse than they were. Like, the isolation, just it was really bad. So my mom, beside herself, was like, I can't believe you didn't call me. Like, she was so upset. But she said, why don't you guys leave for Cincinnati? Because we were supposed to leave the following week for his best friend's wedding, which he was supposed to be in. And so my mom's like, why don't you guys just leave early for the trip? Let things blow over, calm down. She's like, and when you get home, she was like, you can't keep living like this. You have to make a decision. You can't keep doing this. And so I thought that was a good plan. And I also felt like it was a good time because he wasn't home. Because there were times where we would fight and I would try to remove myself from the situation because I could feel the escalation. And however, he needed to do that to keep me from leaving. So there's a lot of fear there. So I felt like since he was away, it was safe for me to do that. So I didn't tell, my mom sent me money for a train ticket for my daughter and I didn't tell him until we were on the train, that, hey, we left early. And when that happened, I didn't really anticipate his reaction. I knew he would be upset, but from that point, he just called me every name under the sun, which that part I kind of expected, but it was more of like him accusing me of kidnapping, all these like crazy accusations. And I realized during that trip, 17 hours, I thought, listen, nobody's going to believe me. Because all I had was like a little prepaid phone that he would give me when he would go out of town so he could like keep in touch with me.
Yeah.
It was like any phone, anything nice I had, he would smash. So I never really had like anything other than the little prepaid phones. And so what I had to do was take one of my smash phones that my daughter was using to play games on, use that to take pictures of the screen of the little phone.
Yeah.
So I could have documentation, so I could, otherwise nobody would have believed me how crazy the things that he was saying. And a lot of this we were actually able to use in evidence later in court. But yeah, 17 hours of just nonstop. I mean, thousands upon thousands. So anyway.
So he did try to say that you kidnapped your daughter?
Oh, 100%. Filed like false petitions in court for like emergency return of my daughter. And during the time I was in Cincinnati, because I felt like I was at the point of no return. Because it was so bad. He was just, the constant threats, the accusations, all these things, like, there's no way I can go back there and be safe. No, absolutely not. So point of no return. That was it for me. So I felt like, okay, like if he's filing all these things, I need to just, go and like, I guess, face whatever like BS he's feeding to the court, which I did. But during the time, which was only like a few weeks we were in Cincinnati, that we came back and he had renewed our lease without my name on it. So, and then he was refusing us back into the place, got rid of all my things, like threw everything out. And so all I had was whatever I packed for Cincinnati for those few days to go visit and so it was, it was really
Did
hard
that
to
help you in court when they're like, why did you take your daughter? And you're like, I'm trying to come back. He won't let me.
Yeah. No.
Wow.
No. And believe it or not, the court system is flawed. Like it's actually kind of scary how flawed it is and corrupt. And you think for me being just like I'm a good person. I was trying to just speak my truth and do everything the right way. Like, and it's not set up to protect victims. It's like, who do you know? How much money do you have?
Who does your attorney know?
Exactly. Yeah. So
as we know,
what
type of relationship does your attorney have with the judge? That's all that matters.
Yeah. So, but when I was with my mom, we came up, and that's when I realized, after the initial petition to whatever he filed for the emergency return, that was all dismissed, but now it was a relocation issue because I have no place to go.
Yeah.
And we have to stay in Philadelphia until the next court hearing, which was like 6 weeks away. Yeah. I'm like, where do you want me to do? I don't know. I was like, of course I need to be home and like have support from my family. Otherwise we're going to be homeless.
Yeah.
And judges kind of like, that's not my problem. You have to figure it out.
Yeah.
And so that was that point of like, all right, well, now I'm homeless. I have nowhere to go. I called.
And you have your daughter.
And I had my daughter. And believe it or not, there were friends.
We could be homeless, but when you have a kid, it's different.
Yeah. And so there were people who I thought were friends that I called for help. Yeah. Like, can we please stay with you for the weekend so we can figure this out? And people said no.
Wow.
And so from that point, I reached out to somebody who used to babysit my daughter at the gym like years before, and she said yes.
Wow.
And from there, that was when I was able to learn about resources. That's how I found out about, women against abuse and safe havens and all the things. And so then that was a battle of trying to get into one of the shelters because the space is limited. There's at the time only 2 100-bed safe havens, and there was just no space. Yeah. There was no space. And so during this time, he's still stalking. He's basically trying to hunt us down. He's just constant threats. Just it was very scary. Yeah. But through that, I ended up having to file protection from abuse order, like a restraining order. And then finally getting an advocate, learning about women against abuse. I was finally able to get into the safe haven, but not without him I ended up getting arrested. He falsely accused me of, we had an altercation. Okay, so maybe can I back up a little bit?
Sure, absolutely. Okay. It's your story.
Yeah. So anyway, this was after he got us kicked out. He ended up finding us at this friend's house. I didn't know that
he came to the house?
No, he, I guess, was just obsessing and like reaching out to every person like on my like Facebook friends and stuff, or who he thought I would have reached out to. Finally got in touch with her, and like they were having conversations, and she was very manipulated and brainwashed by him. But that's also like, that's not fair to me either. Like, have a conversation with me.
Yeah.
But she believed everything he was saying to her, and she ended up kicking us out on like an 8-hour notice and threatened to call DHS on me and all these things. Told him her address. He comes in a cab. And mind you, I was terrified because she also was threatening to have me beat up by her family members if I didn't leave. Yeah.
Wow.
And all the while I'm on the phone with Women Against Abuse with the hotline. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. On the hotline, telling them like, I'm being threatened. I don't know what to do now. I have nowhere to, like, I was freaking out. Like, do you want us to call the police? And then I don't know what happened with that, but the police never came. I think we just got disconnected somehow. Anyway, so he shows up. He's got his phone out taking like video of me. I'm bringing back all this stuff. I had acquired of like the last few weeks of like staying with her. Like my family sending me care packages. So I came with a lot more than what I went in with. And yeah, load everything in the cab. He's in the cab with us. I'm terrified. Headed back to Center City from North Philly. He's like, you better think fast on your feet, because when we get back to the city, he's like, all your shit's going to be on the sidewalk. And I'm like, wow. Get to a hotel. My family at this point has already taken out a loan on their business to help pay for legal fees, hotels, and just trying to like support and help us. And my mom's like, I have no more cash. I don't know what to do. She's like, let me, she had to like make a bunch of calls just to get one night at a hotel for us. And mind you, I'm bringing all this stuff into the hotel, looking at the cashier, like, Hope, just look at me so I can like show you I'm not okay. Cause he's all happy, like all these things. By the way, I'm like 90 something pounds during all this. Like I'm just frail, just so drained, exhausted, and I was like, please just look at me. Please just look, because I'm not okay. Because I knew if he heard the room number, we were like, he was gonna be in the room with us, and that's what happened.
Yeah.
Ultimately, I was able to get him to leave. The next morning, I'm calling every resource on my list for help because I knew I would end up in a city shelter if I couldn't get help from anybody. So ultimately, I had asked him, hey, can you please, most of our communication was through email. So emailed him that morning, said, hey, can I please just put our stuff in the basement till I can figure this out? And he declined. He said, if you were a little bit nicer to me, maybe I would help you. I'm like, so anyway, I realized, I know this is long. I'm almost done, I promise. No. So I realized that it was a shared basement, our old apartment. So I was like, well, maybe a neighbor can let me in. I'll put the stuff down and then figure it out.
Yeah.
And get there. As I'm walking, that was a moment. I don't know if you've seen my documentary, but there was a moment where I said, feeling, like we were homeless and hopeless. There was a point of which I felt like I was a complete and utter failure to my daughter at life. And I just had felt like this heaviness walking with her. I couldn't even put her in her stroller because I had everything I could fit. I had to leave a bunch of stuff in that hotel. I stayed till they made me leave. And I remember just like, what am I doing? What is this? Like, what's happening? Just walking with her and trying to keep things normal. Like everything, I always just try to keep things normal and happy for her. Meanwhile, I was just like dying, on the inside. And anyway, so we're walking to our old apartment, and a cab driver stopped me and was like, ma'am, and I'm thinking like, just leave me alone. He's like, ma'am, he's like, asked if I was okay, if I needed a ride. And I'm like, no, we're fine. And he's like, well, I'm asking because I've saw this man following you the last 2 blocks. And I'm like, oh my God. And described him down to his tattoo. And it's like, he just ran that way and pointed to the direction we were going. He's like, are you sure you're okay? Are you sure you're okay? And I was like, I'm fine. Get to the apartment. And I was able to get in. At this time, I had like a new phone, so I put like the video on my phone to make sure that nothing would happen. Hopefully, nothing happened. So then I was able to put the stuff. Took my daughter to the playground so I could make calls and she could play. And by the end of the day, it was like 5 something. I'm like, all right. My mom's like, talk me into it. She's like, you have to go to a shelter, like Salvation Army, something. She's like, you can't just sleep outside because there's nowhere for me to go. And not this time too. There was no hotel. Yeah, and there were no Airbnb. Well, you didn't have the luxury of Airbnb and all that stuff we have now. And so I had nowhere to go, and I was like, all right, I guess I'm going. So,
and you can't go back home because you have your daughter. You had to stay in the area.
Right.
Before the court date. It's tough.
Yeah. So I get back to the apartment. I let him know I was coming, like, hey, I'm coming to get my stuff. And he seemed agitated by his response. And mind you, he had made friends with this homeless man. I have nothing against homeless people, obviously, but it was this person in particular had a very violent, record. Like he wasn't he wasn't a good dude, you know? So I never understood that relationship, but I knew about him because I had met him at one of our exchanges. And then there were a couple instances where he had followed me. Like I would go sit at a Starbucks and then he would be there. He even had one of my bags. My ex gave him some of my training stuff. He had my Under Armour bag, using it. Had the Under Armour spandex.
That's where I draw the line right there.
And so I'm like, dude. So anyway,
he's got the favorite pair on.
Yeah. So
sorry, keep going.
No, you're good. And so anyway, I see him coming from around the corner, and then my ex comes a couple minutes later. I was like, I just thought it was weird. I didn't think anything of it really. Just an observation. And so get into the basement. I'm getting together. I wasn't taking everything, just a bag of stuff, like pajamas and all the things. And I was trying to make it as a game because I knew if he got a hold of my daughter that he would take her and lock me out and whatever. So I was trying to make it a game, like, hey, babe, like, let's pick out your favorite this, get your favorite book, all this, and trying to keep her close to me. And at one point he grabbed her and started making his way up the basement steps. And I'm like on the basement, still on the floor level. And he's like maybe a few steps up from me. And I'm just begging and pleading with him, please don't take her. You know you can't take her. A lot of, by the way, his behaviors were just out of spite. He used her a lot to hurt me. And I'm just begging and pleading. So at that point, he had taken, holding her, took his forearm and was trying to, like, ram my head and my into the basement step. So he was, like, leaned over, trying to, like, push my head down. And I'm, like, screaming, begging for him to stop. And finally, he just stopped. And then he screams, Jamie, stop it. You're going to hurt her. What are you doing? Like, obviously he said that so a neighbor would hear if I called the police. And so, but after he said that, she held her arms to me and I grabbed her. Yeah. And we ran up the steps, ran to the police station. As I'm telling them my story, a 911 call comes in and he is accusing me of pushing him down the steps. And then apparently he had injuries corroborating his story. And I knew instantly that either that homeless man, like he had him like punch him, or he injured himself. Because in the past when he's hurt me and I threatened to call the police, he would punch himself in the face and say, I will tell them that you hurt me first. Yeah. So I never followed through. But anyway, so that's what I knew because I knew I didn't push him down the steps. And they arrested me. They took me and gave my daughter to him. And I was, I was in like a holding cell for like 5 hours. Finally, a detective came down and she said, listen, here are your rights. You have the right to go before the judge, or you can waive your rights and speak to us. And she said, I really want to hear your story. And I was like, okay, I'll talk to you. And so went to her office. She was clearly an advocate. She had domestic violence posters everywhere. And I always say this, I was like freezing cold. I'm handcuffed to this chair, wrongfully accused. And I just had this calmness over me because I felt like I was in the right place with the right person. And
God put her in your life. Yeah.
And I say that like throughout my whole story, there was like one person like that at like the height of like that moment. There was one person that was always there who helped me. Yeah. And that's I'll go back to it, but that's where my partnership with PPD came to light. So anyway, she after I told her, you know, what had happened and leading up to that, I went back down to my holding cell, and within 45 minutes they released me. But it was middle of the night, and they're like, you need to go file a PFA. Yeah. So I convinced the bus driver to let me on the bus because I didn't have money to pay. He let me on, went and filed, and then 2 days later, I was able to, I got the call from my advocate that they had space for me at the safe haven. Okay. This was after the PFA hearing. I get the call from her. So from there, it was like, I mean, terrible, but also amazing that, you know, I finally had a second chance. Like I could just breathe. I had shelter. I had food. I was safe and could really just focus on, you know, these court hearings, focus on rebuilding, and got to the point where we got to a custody schedule, things like that, and then started training again. I was like, part of taking my power back was doing things that brought me joy, doing things I wasn't allowed to do anymore, and just stepped on that. So that's awesome. When I connected with Daniel. It was actually Rob Haydek's ex-wife at the time, because we were Maria. We were. I don't want to say like super close, but close enough. Like our girls, we would have play dates with the girls, and she had called me. I don't think they knew. I think obviously people knew that like there was a lot happening with our relationship, that we split up and it was like a big deal, but nobody knew I was in a shelter. I didn't tell anybody. So I was still living in the shelter when I started training again. So anyway, I went on this play date with Maria. We went to the Franklin Institute with the girls, and she's like, why don't you train? You should start training again. I'm like, I was like, I don't really have a place because I
lost my favorite spots, Maria.
Yeah. He like forbid me to go to Daniel's. I don't know why, but he didn't like the idea of me ever training at Daniel's. And so, I was like, well, I don't really have a place to train. And she's like, come to, come to the gym, train under Daniel. So that was where my connection with Daniel happened. And just training brought me back to life. It gave me everything that I needed to battle everything that was happening off the mats, because it was still a lot. A lot of people think that once you leave a domestic violence relationship that it's all sunshine and rainbows and everything's great. But that's really the most dangerous time is when someone leaves. Women are 70% more likely to be unalived in the first 2 weeks after leaving than any other time in their relationship.
Wow.
Yeah, and so, I mean, I live that. I completely, like, if I didn't do and just listen to my intuition and all the things, really listening to myself versus what I thought, like, everybody else thought I should be doing, that I think I would have probably made the wrong decision, or maybe even gone back, because it is a mountain. To say it's a mountain is not even the right word for it. Like, what you're faced with when you leave and you have nothing.
No
and
family.
You have to rebuild,
well,
and
your families,
you don't have that support.
They tried to help, but they're hundreds of miles away.
It's oftentimes easier to just go back and deal and just manage it. But I just, something in me was like, you can't go back, because either you'll be one of those statistics, or you're just gonna live the rest of your life like as this abused. You'll never like live. So I took my power back.
So you get to the court date?
There were so many. I had too many to even count. Too many, because every time we would
But now you have full custody of your daughter.
I do. And it's funny, because 4 years later, I mean, fighting, his mental health deteriorating, nobody would listen to me. I'm like, something's wrong. So we finally get to a judge, because this was a point where my daughter was experiencing severe neglect in his care. And of course, I've always been like queen of documenting everything, like timestamps, like this, like always documented. And so got to the point where like I'm hearing things from my daughter, like, this is like, I'm hungry, like all the, and I'm just, so finally filed and kept refiling, because things were getting like denied. And so anyway, I finally got a court hearing for emergency custody of my daughter, and finally get to this judge. He took one look at our case and canceled his whole docket for the day. We were his first and last hearing of that day. It was 8 hours of testimony, evidence, interviews. My family was there. His mother was there. It was he even said, "I can't believe your case has gotten this far." So put everything into place for my ex, because he knew early on. He could have just thrown the book at him, but he knew, because like a lot of narcissists do this. They'll try to appeal things or say, well, I didn't get a chance for this or that. So he made sure that he had every single chance and opportunity to get the help that he needed to make sure he covered all of his bases, knowing he wasn't going to do any of that. So I was awarded temporary, I don't want to say awarded, I was given temporary full custody during that time. So he gave him like, I think 4 weeks to get his stuff straightened out, because he also knew something mentally was wrong. So ends up he was undiagnosed schizophrenic, psychosis, among other things, and mixed with, apparently he was doing a bunch of different types of drugs and things. No. And so at the final hearing, I was given sole physical and legal custody of my daughter.
What was his reaction when?
They brought in like 7 to 8 deputies, because they were all very like, what's going to happen? And it wasn't at all what we thought. He just was, because I think deep down he also knew, like, okay, it's over. It's over. I have no more. I mean, for years he manipulated the courts. Everybody believed him for so long. My mom always told me, like, just keep speaking your truth. Keep
the truth
being
will
strong,
always come to
always.
light.
And so I just trusted that, kept speaking my truth, and did just that. And I think at that point he knew. And then we had to be escorted by the police back to my mom's hotel, because they were also concerned that he might either follow us there or just do something. So but from there, I believe one of his family members came to pick him up and took him to Tennessee after that.
Okay. Now does he reach out to your daughter?
No. He had the opportunity, and it's in our custody order that he would have, you know, 1 day a week to have, you know, phone conversation with her, but he chose not to take advantage of that.
Yeah. That's a shame.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, and only because we're running out of time here, but
so much.
What do you got coming up? What are you doing now?
So
where can the viewers follow you?
Instagram, really. At Bad Mama. So that's my main, like, primary way to
Bad Mama, but it's Mama MMA.
MMA, okay. And yeah.
MA MMA.
Yeah. I have some people like Bad Mama, and I'm like, no. And so, but yeah, so now if I could very quickly, I ended up reconnecting with Women Against Abuse. So now I'm an advocate. Over the last, I think it was like 3 years ago, I was appointed to the board of directors.
Nice.
Making me the first ever former client to be appointed to the board. I serve on various boards throughout the city as well, and work with the Office of Domestic Violence Strategies. And I'm in partnership with law enforcement. Some of the same officers who helped me, who gave me services back then, actually had like this thing on my heart. I'm like, I want to just give my gratitude. And just want to share my story and tell them like how they helped me in those moments. And from there, just as like this beautiful partnership was born. So doing a lot of self-defense and like public safety initiatives with law enforcement. And that's been really, really awesome. Mm-hmm. And I now have Veracity Self-Defense, which is my program. So I work, I really work with anybody who wants to learn, because I think just really anybody should learn self-defense. But I'm very heavily community driven. I work a lot with like young girls in the juvenile justice system. I work with various nonprofits, city organizations. I collaborate with elected officials for their communities. And yeah, it's been a really beautiful journey since then. Yeah, and my daughter's great. She's thriving. She's just can be a typical kid and worry about kid stuff and not have to worry about anything. And so, yeah, life is good. It's
that's an incredible story. Yeah. I am glad to hear that you're doing much better, and those foundations are very lucky to have you.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much.